In a moment of terror, you'll naturally feel fear. In a moment of sorrow, you'll naturally feel sadness. And in a moment of lost temper, you'll naturally feel anger. In Stoicism, these feelings are what are known as first impressions. It's basically just the first impression that you initially receive when you face a new circumstance or situation. However, the Stoics say that most of the time, these first impressions are irrational, and they're irrational because this first impression that we're getting is the impression that we usually get because we've conditioned ourselves up to that point without much thought. Instead, they suggest we ought to take a step back and reflect on the situation that's causing that first impression. So, let's do just that. The entire process of what I'm about to describe to you is known as the process of synchatathesis, the process of assenting to an impression. And there's 4 total steps involved in the process of synchatathesis. 1 is the perception itself. 2 is an unconscious value judgment. 3 is a conscious reflection. And 4 is the act of assent or non-assent itself. Picture you're in a forest, a dark forest. The first step is the perception that you literally get. You're in a dark forest. Now you're on to step 2, the unconscious value judgment. So, what's the naturally occurring first impression that you'll most likely get out of instinct? Fear. You'll think to yourself, oh no, this isn't good, the dark is bad, because through evolution, that's the way we're made to think. But then, if you don't react impulsively or recklessly, after a couple seconds or minutes, you'll reach step 3, a conscious reflection. You'll then say to yourself, wait, is this actually bad? Or am I overreacting here? The step combines the first 2 steps together. After receiving your perception and unconscious value judgment, step 3 is where you reflect on these responses, and this naturally leads to step 4, which is the assent or non-assent itself. You'll say to yourself, okay, it is dark, I agree, I'll assent to that. However, the dark isn't that bad, so I won't assent to that. I know my way home, I don't want to do anything stupid or reckless or careless or whatever, but I'll remain cautious without overreacting for my own safety. When we act on our first impressions, we act in a way that is not rational. We're acting on an emotion that is not rational. And when we act on something irrational, we're acting in a way that we'd normally not want to. In a moment of terror, you'll naturally feel fear, but if you take a step back, you'll realize that the situation may not be as scary as it is if you just simply don't act impulsively or recklessly. In a moment of sorrow, you'll naturally feel sadness, but if you take a step back, you'll make sure that you don't overwhelm yourself with grief. And in a moment of lost temper, you'll naturally feel anger, but if you take a step back, you'll realize that anger doesn't get you anywhere except in a situation that you never wanted to be in the first place and never would have happened if anger wasn't there. Giving in and assenting and acting on that first impression might quite possibly be the border between being level-headed in a situation versus being in a situation that you'll most likely regret down the line because you acted irrationally. Thank you for joining me on this journey of philosophy. As always, and until next time, keep questioning and keep learning.